Good morning, Dr. Dina, innovator in health and wellness. And today is June 8th, 2020, a Monday morning. And I'm here to publicly apologize to anyone who I may have hurt, disappointed, or offended with my signs on the weekend. We had a freedom rally at City Hall in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and this was the fourth week of that freedom rally. It was birthed because of the challenges to our rights and freedoms during this COVID crisis. And there were events, the celebration of freedoms and rights that went across Canada. So it wasn't just in Halifax, targeting oh, no sound there. Oh, Robert, really? Can anyone else hear sound? Is it working now, Robert? I see you watching, but do we have sound? Yes? Okay, we have sound? Okay. So the Freedom Rally on the weekend, you can still hear, Robert? Yeah? So you said no sound. I don't know if there's sound. Anyway, well, I hope there's sound. I get some hearts, so maybe there is. Somebody let me know if you can't hear me, and maybe I can start it over again. But our Freedom Rally on the weekend at City Hall, Betty Lou is watching. Is there sound, Betty Lou? Just say yes for sound or no for sound, and sound is fine for me. Okay, thank you, Francois. So we had a rally again at City Hall, and this was part of a national directive, I guess, to make people aware of our freedoms and rights that were being restricted and stepped upon in this COVID-19 crisis. And two signs, so that was on Saturday, June 6th. There were two signs in particular that were hurtful to people. One said, "All life matters," and there was a 5G symbol with an X in it, and there was a no chemicals and an X in no chemicals. And then underneath the no chemicals, it was air, food, water, and blood. So again, chemicals in the blood, meaning vaccines, chemicals in the food, which is the genetically modified food, and the water-soluble poison glyphosate, which destroys natural bacteria not only in the soil and in the herbs, but in you and in our oceans. So that's the chemicals in the food, chemicals in the water like fluoride and chlorine, which are neurotoxic, and chemicals in the sky, in our air, which are the chemtrails. And Bill Gates has just been part of an experiment, over the last couple of years of pumping chemicals into the sky to actually block out the sun. So they have, scooped up Greta to promote this climate change when actually, that was to carry through his agenda, his weather experiments, something called geoengineering. And if you want to look up that, geoengineering.org with Dane Wigington is a great resource. So the idea was that all life matters, all life forms matter, because the 5G technology, which is a military systems wave, when they put towers up in the Netherlands, 259 birds had fell out of the sky. So it's not really just about us humans, it's about our animals, it's about our plant life, it's about the soil being depleted of these natural bacteria because of the poisons they're putting in the air. The other sign said all lives matter. So not just black lives matter, absolutely. White lives matter, kids' lives matter, Indian lives matter. It's a way of making us inclusive instead of segregating us into groups based on the color of our skin. So I really wish to thank, and I'm going to tag the people who I haven't been able to connect with yet since this weekend, because I had an overwhelming response, and it's hard to bring all this forward in a text message. So I thought if I did this video as an apology and an explanation, then I can send it out to those who are concerned. So if there's anyone that I've missed, feel free to forward it on. But again, I thank everyone for their comments, because it really helps me see a different perspective. The challengers and the supporters, both together, help us both sort of grow and bring us to new levels of awareness. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself quickly. I grew up in a small fishing village in Portugal Cove, Newfoundland, and we didn't have any Afro-American people. The first black person I'd seen was when I went to junior high school in St. John's, and Mark Kelly was the only black person that I ever knew when I was in Newfoundland. And he was a celebrity. You know, he had chocolate skin and he was so unique and he was a celebrity. So I guess I am from white privilege because I didn't see that racism. I didn't see that, you know, people being terrorized because of the color of their skin. But so my intention wasn't to disrespect, you know, black people or any ethnical group, and it wasn't to make excuse or make light of injustice or violences that have happened and the cruelties. And that video, the George Floyd video, was horrific, right? It was horrific. So I just made a few notes here. You know, maybe in answering questions, if you have any, or comments, and I share my heart set and my mindset, you know, we might come together and unite. So I want to start with the mainstream media story first. The mainstream media is a mouthpiece for the cabal, the global elite, the white supremacists, whatever you want to call them, Freemasons. How do we know this? Well, back in the early mid-1800s, there were a group of men, and they were the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and J.P. Morgan, and they took over, they monopolized the oil industry and the railway. They eventually, in 1910, the Flexner Report, you can research this, took over medicine. That they, you know, did away with the holistic practices of medicine and made medicine into a pharmaceutical business. They also, at that point, took over the media because, you see, the media was their biggest obstacle into their further success. So they would treat the workers unfairly. They would take over other businesses unlawfully. And the media was their biggest challenger. So they bought out the media. So this is a long history, right, of media manipulation. Now, in recent years, you will know, and I've had posted, Missy posted it, you know, the CBC articles about me. So the truth is that I was posting research and information about the dangers of vaccines, and that my provincial association, my chiropractic association, had fined me for speaking out these truths on my personal page. And I thought it was unfair, you know, to cap or to stop my personal voice. You know, it wasn't something I was preaching to my patients in my practice, but I was sharing it on a personal platform. But eventually I ran out of money, you know, trying to, let's say, validate my position, and I had to surrender my chiropractic license. So I wanted to go to CBC. So CBC published a few stories. I wanted to go to CBC and give them the backside story. I mean, they published one part, but I wanted to give them the inside scoop, and how some of my chiropractic friends were being suicided and murdered for speaking out about these vaccine dangers, and how over Aaron at HealthNet News had published a story like there were 90 holistic doctors that died over like a 2-year period, I think it was. Because of their views on vaccines and holistic health, and many of them were studying an enzyme called nagalase, Naglase. And before it got out, you know, that vaccines could cause cancers, you know, these people suddenly disappeared. Strange occurrences were happening. And CBC told me at that point they wouldn't publish a study that wasn't approved by Snopes. So Snopes, it was a husband and wife team, now just a husband team, out in the middle of Canada. And they, actually, I think he was in Saskatchewan, but they wouldn't approve a story that wasn't approved by Snopes. That, again, was on the Monsanto payroll. Again, Monsanto, Bayer, is a company that genetically modifies our food. It's a company that also makes vaccines and medicines. Monsanto was a company, a collection of companies that also made Agent Orange and DDT. So they've been in the chemical business for a long time. But anyway, I was told that this alliance with Snopes and their connection would prevent the Canadian Broadcasting Company that gives news to our whole country. It would prevent them from publishing a study if it wasn't approved by Snopes. I'll go back to that group in a second. But right there, I could see that, you know, our local medias are even influenced by this global agenda. CTV, and you know, I've invited CTV to come to our you know, peaceful demonstrations, protecting our rights and freedoms and holding space. And we haven't had any local media on our protest. And then we can go to a global we can go to a global media like CNN or some of the other big news stations, where they had us believing that 9/11 was a terrorist attack. I mean, some people still believe that. So if you're still in that group that believes 9/11 was a terrorist attack, just go to YouTube and Google Tom Petty free falling. And in 3 minutes, you will see Tom Petty describe and show you news clips about how it can't be a terrorist attack. But the media had set that up for you. They had mind controlled us to believe it was a terrorist attack, and many of us believed them. Now, the COVID-19 scam is about the same, right? They have convinced us that this is a deadly pandemic. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, said we must stay locked in our homes until a vaccine becomes available because of this deadly pandemic. We see pictures that the media posts of, hospital wards full of those people with respirators. But, that same picture of those people with respirators had been used, I don't know, a couple years previously in a different country. It was like a Shutterstock image. The media was using this to scare you. And the body bags and the whole thing. I mean, you were media manipulated. So Dr. Emad, E-M-A-D, Gugus, he's on my Facebook page. So if you're listening, you can go to his YouTube channel. He has 3 or 4 videos now, and they're just beautiful. He's an epidemiologist. He's a medical doctor. He's family medicine. He has a double specialty. And he says, the deaths from COVID-19 are far less than the deaths from flu in any given year. So at the time he did the video, the deaths from coronavirus or COVID were 2,200, and the deaths from flu in any given year were 8,500. And the deaths from motor vehicle accidents were 13,000. So that puts it into perspective, right? We've shut down our global economy, the media precipitating that because of a cold virus, which is what a coronavirus is, that has has statistics, death statistics that are much lower than the flu in any given year. So I really thank Dr. Gugus for sort of putting that together and putting it into perspective for us. So you can check that out. And then part of this sort of mind control experiment would be the whole toilet paper issue, right? Toilet paper. So the media pumped up this thing for toilet paper, and the toilet paper was cleared off the shelves. Coronavirus, or this COVID-19, is a respiratory virus. So if the media were trying to help you, if they were truthful, they would have been talking about using vitamin C to bowel tolerance, until you get diarrhea. That handles most viruses, or vitamin D3, or sunshine, or steaming your sinus, which elevating the temperature, which clears out the virus. Or if they didn't want to give you any medical or health advice, they could have just told you to get tissues, right? Instead of the toilet paper. So in my mind, this was a mind control experiment. It was a way to sort of check and see who was programmed, who was plugged into the agenda. And I've talked about that in another video I did called Wake Up World. I think the one called Stay Awake is still on my YouTube channel, and then I sent a link to the Facebook one, and I talk more about masks and mind control and what's been happening. So if you want more information on that, my YouTube channel, Wake Up World or Stay Awake, are the 2 videos where you'll find that information. Also some background into what I'm talking about now, so the links and information you can check out. But so I have come to distrust the media because of my situation. So when I heard and seen that video, that horrible video of George Floyd, I started to ask myself the same question. Who is promoting this and why? And then I seen a Twitter feed, a tweet by Bill Gates, who was promoting it. Now that makes me a little nervous because Bill Gates is, one of the wealthiest men in the world. He, has a $20 billion vaccine business. It could be a lot more than that now. That was the last statistic I heard. He's the largest contributor to the World Health Organization. And if you were to look up World Health Organization 1972 mandate, thank you for the comments. I'm going to check back in just a second. Vitamin D and the resuscitate. Okay, I'll make a note to check back with that. But the 1972 mandate with the World Health Organization were to kill using vaccines. So Bill Gates, it doesn't appear that he has a respect for life based on those actions and what his life demonstrates. He also has a TED Talk, and again, you can YouTube this. TED Talk, Depopulation, Bill Gates. We're coming right from his mouth. He talks about depopulating the planet with vaccines. The DPT vaccine had killed 10 times more African kids than the non-vaccinated. There were 47,000 cases of paralysis in India with kids that he'd given the HPV vaccine to. And, you know, kids all over the world in third world countries are being used as guinea pigs to test these chemicals. They're non-FDA approved vaccines, and the kids of these third world countries, because are being taken advantage of, their lack of education, I don't know, the lack of political power. And it's being presented as a health practice. Bill Gates presents himself as a philanthropist when thousands of children are dying. But I don't want you to believe me what I'm saying. I want you to research it for yourself. Now, Google was bought out by a pharmaceutical company a few years ago, so Google may not be the best source, although it's getting better these days. But Brave, B-R-A-V-E, is a browser you could use, and also a search engine called DuckDuckGo, like the kids' game Duck Duck Goose, but DuckDuckGo, G-O. And that will give you access to some information that's censored in mainstream media. So check this out yourself. So George Soros, so Bill Gates and George Soros are some wealthy guys, right? And Bill Gates has 500,000 shares in Monsanto Bayer, again, that company, chemical company. And George Soros has 900,000 shares in Monsanto Bayer. So when they're promoting something, it makes me a little nervous because their actions and their words and their life doesn't demonstrate that they truly have a humanitarian purpose. So what do I want to say about George? I'm going to give you the quote. And this was a quote that George Soros had said in 2014 to a German publication called BILD. Now, when I looked this up, of course, Snopes, right, said, no, this didn't happen. This is false news. This is fake news. Because remember, Snopes is on the Monsanto payroll. So I've consistently found over a period of time, if I'm looking for truth, I actually Google to see what Snopes says, and I know it's going to be the exact opposite. You know, they're trying to cover up the globalist agenda. But here's what George Soros had said. I'm going to bring down the United States by funding black hate groups. We'll put them into a mental trap and make them blame white people. The black community is the easiest to manipulate. So this came from George Soros. So when I seen Black Lives Matter, I felt like that is playing into the agenda. That's playing into the globalist agenda where they're dividing us based on the color of our skin. So these globalist elite, white supremacists, Freemasons, whatever you want to call them, we're playing into their hand with this movement. The purpose really is to distract us from what they're really doing in the world. Just like the whole toilet paper was a mind game, it was a mind trick. They're trying to distract us, and they're trying to stir up these old pains and generational traumas to distract and divide us. You know, it's an old strategy. It's an old war strategy. Divide and conquer. This is what the elitists are trying to do with us. Now, they threw in Obama, and Obama then had to dance, you know, the same dance as these other white supremacists. In 2013, Obama passed a law called the Monsanto Act that absolved Monsanto companies of any liability, death, or disease with these genetically modified foods. Now, why would they put a law in place to protect these big companies instead of protecting us? You know, the lady who started, Tammy Cannell, started the March Against Monsanto, was a stay-at-home mom who's seen her kids being poisoned because the highest concentration of this glyphosate is in kids' foods. So glyphosate was first patented as an antibiotic. I know I say this every time, but maybe there's some new viewers today. And it kills the bacteria in your gut. So when you don't have the bacteria in your gut, you can't assimilate your foods properly. It creates chronic inflammations. It creates food allergies, intolerances. The whole gluten movement and gluten sensitivities is because they've genetically modified our food and sprayed it with a poison. It wipes out all our natural bacteria and flora that is 80 to 90% of our immune system. So they're killing us slowly. Yes, it doesn't take us out right away because it doesn't kill us. It kills the bacteria that supports us. So the global supremacists, will throw in, and they probably are white elitists, Freemasons, but they brought in a few colored Afro-American people like Obama and then had them, dance to the record to try to keep us all under the illusion that they're not racist. So in Halifax. I'm going to give you a little bit of Halifax history because I think that's important to understand where we've came from. But there's a tragic story of a black community in Nova Scotia, and it's called Africville, and it's on the south shore of Bedford. There's now just a museum there and a park, and the developers apparently are going to bring up, housing in that area and take away the park that was put there as a memorial. But in the 17 and 1800s, white settlers viewed this black community as inferior. They didn't receive water and sewage. The white supremacists, even in 1964 in the Halifax City Council, used bribery, used intimidation, expropriation to drive these people, to force them off the land. And not only did they take their homes, their possessions, they took their dignity because they forced them to be a ward of the state and social services or social assistance. So I'm not black, my skin is white, but I can still empathize and I can feel that pain. Because these traumas are not just taught now. These prejudice, the prejudice of white or black is not just taught, it's birthed into our DNA. Bruce Lipton, who's a cell biologist, says the epigenetic factors, our thoughts and beliefs that are above our genes, actually can turn on and turn off gene expression. So prejudice is not just taught, it's birthed into us. It's a nature and nurture both working together to create kind of emotion and to keep these traumas fresh. Now, around the same time in Halifax, and this was, I think I put down the year here somewhere, 1749, there was a British Army, where did I put that? A British Army general named Cornwallis. He was the Earl of Cornwall. And he was here to destroy indigenous people, the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk that lived in these parts. This is our foundation here, is the indigenous people. He had made a bribe, I guess. He made it look to the English like it was the Indians that were scalping, but it was the white man. It was the white men that were scalping the Indians. He had a bribe to his army that suggested they could have 10 Guinness, 10 beer if they bought in an Indian, dead or alive, with his scalp, take off his scalp. This was that man, Cornwallis, who was honored in a statue down at Halifax at our harbor. And the statue remained there until 2018. Honoring that injustice and that cruelty. So the, Mi'kmaq and Beothuk have been under attack for many years too. They've been, abused, they've been murdered, raped. The child sex slaves bought down into deep state military tunnels and used under experiments. There's an investigation now in BC about these Aboriginal groups and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's connection to those. But they were forced off the land. They were forced off. They deprived of food. They were tortured and burned so the Canadian government could put in a railway. This is our heritage. This is the pain that's been birthed. And the same burning off the land happened in Australia. And we see the direct energy systems, direct energy weapons that created fires in Australia and that were, you know, precipitated by the the geoengineering of the weather. Again, if you don't know these things, it might be a lot at once, but take what you need from here, and then you can research the rest. And I've given you that. I don't want you to believe anything I say. I want you to research it and know it for yourself, because then you feel it in your heart. You're not just thinking it in your mind. We need to be critically thinking about what's happening in our environment. But in Australia, so the government, you know, created these bushfires that burned people out of their homes, that destroyed the wildlife and the animals. For what? Rail route. Why? Smart meter conspiracy. You know, smart city. They want the smart city. So again, smart meters is a whole other conversation. But there's an agenda, and it's called the UN 2030. If you don't know about that, you can, again, YouTube Rosa Core, C-O-I-R-E, and understand the motivation behind this, the fires, the bushfires in Australia. So again, the governments and the elite, the Freemasons, whatever you want to call them, white supremacists, are still up to their old tricks, destroying people in the land. But the only way they can win is to divide and separate us into black and white groups. That's the only way they can win, is to create unrest within our people, because our combined love and wisdom, there's no match for that. There's no match for it. Our intention dictates our destiny. These lower densities understand our power, and they're distracting and dividing us to take it away. I don't know, I was going to make somebody had a comment on, somebody earlier had a comment, and I just can't remember it right now. Josie, I think it was you that had the comment. Thank you for watching, by the way. Josie, Leona, Wendy. So if you want to pop that up again, if it's something that I've missed. And I do appreciate all the people that have sent comments, whether in support or challenge. I think that's how we grow. I appreciate the people who connect with me here on the live Facebook, who correct me when I get things wrong. Because again, we're a team. Right, we're teamwork. So I got the New King's name wrong last time, or gave a wrong statistic, and there's somebody there to help and correct. So if, again, you have anything to add, you know, just, there's so much love for you. Thank you, Josie. But maybe don't share that right now. The love part is makes it hard for me to talk. You know, I get choked up. It's not emotion, it's gratitude. But it's hard to do a live Facebook video with a frog or a heart in your throat. So save the love right now. I just want corrections. So now that we have a bit of history, both from Africville and the Aboriginals, let's go to summary. So one of the comments I had from a friend was that this was my sign was untimely. Others were disappointed, felt I was being racist, unfeeling, uncaring. I have to trust that you have your own judgments, and I hope you will listen to this video and understand my reasoning. That timely is an interesting idea. If you believe in a divine plan, a grand organized design, as John D. Mardini calls it, a God, grand organized design. If you believe that there's a plan, or there's a spirit, or a force, a loving matrix that guides us, then we have to say, timing's perfect. We may not see why and understand, but we have to see that timing is perfect. There's always divine. So after I had all these comments from friends and relatives and people I don't know, I thought, maybe it wasn't good timing. You know, maybe I shouldn't have bought that sign. And I started to doubt myself. And then that little voice, not the devil on this shoulder, but, you know, the voice of Spirit of Unconditional Love said, Dina, there's no mistakes. There's no mistakes. Everything is perfectly aligned to a divine attention. You just have to seize the opportunity. So here I am. Summary. Let's say the summary is that the mainstream media is a mouthpiece for the cabal, for the corrupt, the global elite, white supremacists, whatever you want to call them, Freemasons that run the world. And they do invite, a few others in to make it look like they're not racist, but truly they are. They use false flag events and crisis actors to manipulate. So that was something that I missed actually going over, that some people had sent me the George Soros videos, and did I put that in here? Yeah, some of the George Soros videos were of the police officer didn't have his badge on, and another comparative photo was that there was a line on the ground, and the other didn't have a line on the ground. There were a video of his family and the GoFundMe collecting $30 million, and somebody had circled that George was actually in that photo. So I don't know. I don't know what the truth is, to be honest with you. I don't know if he's dead, if he's alive, if that actually happened. If I trust in the mainstream media, I will believe that narrative. But the truth is that the more information that comes out, I'm beginning to question. And when I see people like Bill Gates and George Soros supporting that story, it makes me a little nervous. So, again, I just want to take the opportunity to, once again, to apologize to those who I offended. And I know, again, like I said, prejudice and pain, it can rest and reside deep within your DNA, not just in your mind, but in your heart. And maybe I take this opportunity also to apologize for anything I said in the past that may have offended somebody, or that I will do in the future that will offend someone. So my signs, vaccines cause autism, or the dangers of vaccines, or vaccine companies are protected from liability. So if your child gets injured, there's all sorts of different signs that have really caused a stir in what I've done in the past, and likely what I will do in the future. So I'm going to save this video. So if there's something that creates pain, I will have this as a record to share with those people who I've offended. When something creates emotion or pain, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to kind of go within ourselves and to see why it's causing us that pain. And Rumi was a poet, right, who said, "The wound is the place where the light enters. The wound is the place where the light enters." We don't run away from the pain. We embrace it. It's the key. It's the key to understanding what's holding us back from our truest self. So that the wound is the place where the light enters. So I ask myself, when I'm feeling pained by an article, by a phrase, by an idea, a few questions that might be helpful for you. The first is, why does it create emotion in me? Why does it create emotion? So when I see somebody sending love hearts and I get choked up, that's not pain. That is gratitude. And those tears and that gratitude is a different place than the tears of pain or victimhood. But why does it create pain for me? Why does it create emotion is a good thing for me to ask myself. And then I say, is it true? Is it true? Because that's important, right? If it's false, like in some of the things the media is posting, deadly disease, no, it's no more deadly than the flu, then we have to correct them, right? Not to be angry, because anger, again, holds us down from into a lower vibration, but just asking our media to be transparent and accountable and truthful. So the thing you want to ask yourself is it true? The third question is, what is the intention behind the message? right? So you can see, maybe now, maybe you can't, maybe you can see my intention behind the message had a different meaning than what you initially thought when you seen me with the sign. So when I seen the horrific video of this man being killed and the media posting it, I asked myself, what is the intention in this message? How does this further our humanity? How does this allow our vibration to rise? And when I start researching in it, like I said, the global elitists that are promoting this story have an agenda. It's their agenda. It's not ours. Because we default to love. A movie. I mentioned My Story in Newfoundland. But a great Broadway musical is Oil and Water. And it's an endearing story of a ship that was shipwrecked out of the coast of Newfoundland and were rescued by this small Newfoundland group. So if you've seen the movie, the 9/11 movie, and that's called something, Coming Home or Away from Home, I can't remember, but seen that movie, I would guarantee you this Broadway musical Oil and Water is equally moving, but it's about prejudice and racism. So now is the time we need to be pulling that Broadway musical out and showing it around the world. Oil and Water. But what is the intention behind the message? We can see the intention behind this message was an elitist group who wanted to stir up and distract us and divide us. What is the unresolved emotion in you? This is key for me. What is the unresolved emotion in you, Dina, that's causing you to react? So, you know, as I was getting all these emails yesterday and getting comments from friends, from previous patients, from family members, from colleagues saying how disappointed they were in me and, you know, how hurtful I was and how racist I was. It did stir up emotion, you know. So I thought, why is that stirring up emotion in you? You know, somewhere you must believe that about yourself or else it wouldn't be. And I can't judge them. I can only think that they're basing their judgment based on what they know, what they've experienced, how they perceived it. So it's not really about me. Their reaction is really about themselves and where they are with their environment and their experience. And then the last question, when I see something that moves me, either to pain or to tears, I think, what can I do about it? What can I do about it? And this video is part of that. It's addressing the concerns that were brought to me and trying to share my heart and my mind so we can bring unity. And my purpose is to try to elevate our awareness, to try to elevate our consciousness outside of it being black or white, but being human. So I would just ask you to give permission to go within and find the answers within yourself. Because this is a growth opportunity. It's a timely growth opportunity. Because our world is changing so fast. It's a time to attach to your pain and turn the pain into purposeful action. You know, an event is just an event until you place your own judgment and perception upon it. So if we find it, we can let go of the pain and we can use the pain to fuel our purpose. Again, to rise into love. So use your fire to become the flame. Use the fire to become the flame. And not the flame that burns our brothers and sisters regardless of the color of their skin. Not the flame that fights us against one another, black and white and Christian and Muslim. Not that flame. And not the flame that will burn our police officers who are out there every day fighting for our safety, that sometimes put their self in the middle of a bullet to save you. This was an isolated situation, but don't let it label you. Don't let it scar you. Don't let the pain delude you to the goodness and the love in the world and the compassion. Don't let, this is important for me, Don't let that flame burn the politicians or the media, because we realize they are just mouthpieces for this greater agenda. So even though I challenge our leaders, I feel this is part of having all of us become accountable and transparent. I feel that's a loving thing to do. It's not done with any malice in my heart. It's because I truly want what's best for our humanity. Now, Dr. Robert Strang is our Chief Medical Officer here in Nova Scotia, and he's put out messages about the COVID is more dangerous for older people. It's more dangerous for people who smoke. It's more dangerous for people who have immune systems who are suppressed. But he hasn't told you it's more dangerous for people to have the flu shot. Because the flu shot contains that corona sequence. And what Dr. Judy Merkovits and what Dr. Doris Cahill, who's a world-famous microbiologist, immunologist, what they say is if you've had the flu shot, you're more susceptible to having this corona, you're more susceptible to dying with coronavirus. And this is what we've seen here in Halifax, where 51, I think, of the 58 deaths, maybe that's changed now, but it was that 2 weeks ago, were at Northwood facility, Northwood Manor. So not only are these the age population, but did they have the flu shot was the question that I posed to Dr. Robert Strang, Dr. Randy Delors, who's our health minister, and our premier, Stephen McNeil. That was the question was, did all these people that die have the flu shot, and was it from the same batch? So we need to hold our leaders accountable and our politicians. But it's not burning them in a flame of resentment and anger and trying to throw eggs at their house or rip down their signs. We're contributing then to that violence. We're part of the problem then. We're not the solution. The idea is to bring everybody, to elevate, to give everybody an opportunity to elevate the consciousness, to honor our humanity. So that flame is for bringing our love for humanity, for bringing our purpose. It's to use your pain, to use your flame for a greater agenda. And that could be, again, like I said, keeping our leaders transparent and accountable. But that's the flame that unites us. That's the flame that unites us, that we cannot be separated. We stand then in solidarity, in transparency, in accountability, and in love and respect, not only for our humanity, but for our planet, for the plants, for the animals, for the soil. So I wrote a manifesto. Part of this is understanding where we came from and also understanding where we're going. I won't read it out here because it's too long, but I will post it on this video. Because I think as we are being disillusioned and we are being distracted, it's important for us to focus our thoughts on where we want to go. And writing those thoughts down, as Gandhi says, our thoughts and our beliefs dictate our words, our actions, and our destiny. So changing our beliefs is hard. If you believe there's a loving universe that loves and protects us, you will act differently than if you think everybody is out to get you. So changing your beliefs helps you guide that process. And if you can write it down, if you can write down your words in a purpose or a business plan or a life plan in going forward, it helps us be creators of our destiny. It helps us manifest what we want to see instead of what we don't want to see. Black, white, yellow, red, all the colors of the rainbow matter. Always. In the past, in the present, and in the future. And again, it's this foundation that is unbroken. So in summary, I don't know if there's any questions. Thank you, Terlin. In summary, if I've missed anything, feel free to include it, and I'll make sure I say it. Or if I've said something wrong, given a wrong reference, I'll check back again just before I close out. So if there's anything, feel free to put them in the comment section. But the bottom line, the summary is really that the mainstream media is a mouthpiece for the cabal. And that this global elite group uses the media to put forward their agenda. false flags, crisis actors manipulating us, photos. And I gave the example of 9/11. Tom Petty, you can have a look at that free-falling video, or the COVID-19, and I gave you a reference of Dr. Imad Gurgas, who's in Toronto, who has a YouTube video, a number of different videos. The first one was the benefits and risks of COVID lockdown, and then the lockdown was actually showing to cause more deaths. This is what mainstream didn't tell you, because of people that were deprived of their elective surgeries, deprived of their treatments, deprived of investigations, that were home and depressed and had suicides. So Dr. Imad Gurgas kind of puts that into perspective for you, and says, you know, are we flattening the curve, or are we actually flattening you, you know, as a person? So he has some interesting things to report on that. So the whole COVID-19 scam is really just, again, another crisis to help further their agenda, which is to sell their vaccine. To keep us locked down in our house, you know, for a mandatory vaccine. And Tara Lynn just popped in here. You know, in New Brunswick right now, they're fighting this Bill 11 that will mandate all kids have to have a certain number of vaccines, 70 doses by the time they're 16 years old, in order to go to school. So they're bribing with these chemical injections that should be voluntary. Anything that carries any risk, which vaccines do, should be a voluntary thing. And you know, there's no studies, no double-blind safety control studies for any of the vaccines out there on the market. So Dr. Teresa Tam had said when COVID first kind of wound its way through, that we were all going to be under lockdown, and she even had a little clip where we'd be in handcuffs. We could be arrested if we didn't consent to having this chemical injection, this lethal injection for some people. So know that the media is there to manipulate. They're a part of a greater agenda, so you have to question it. You have to look for alternate media sources. So Vaccine Choice Canada is a good resource, and they now have hired a constitutional lawyer, Rocco Galanti, who is taking our Canadian government to court for our rights and freedoms that were being infringed upon in this COVID-19. So they really need your support. Sign up to the newsletter, Vaccine Choice Canada, and if you feel inspired, to donate to their cause, because it's going to cost money. These are a group of non-profit parents of vaccine-injured children who feel passionately enough about it to have hired a lawyer and to take the Canadian government to court. So Vaccine Choice Canada is a good resource. If you're looking for vaccine information, there's Larry Cook, and he has the Patriot page. He also has a Facebook page called The Vaccine Free Child. Who am I missing? Del Bigtree with the High Wire. We have Robert Scott Bell, the Robert Scott Bell Show. Aaron at Health Nut News. I don't know if you have any more that I'm forgetting that you can post up here. But these people are even True North is a good publication here now, because to give you some of the other details that you won't be hearing in mainstream. So again, the whole mind control thing, right? The toilet paper thing was really shocking to me. How the media could say go buy a toilet paper and everybody cleared toilet paper off the shelves. So that is one good example of the media mind control that you can keep in your mind when you're reviewing something that mainstream puts out. And again, the final point in this whole video is that to classify us as black or white plays into their globalist agenda. Because their purpose is to divide us, divide and conquer, to distract us from the real issues of the world, and to stimulate your pain so we fight against each other, instead of directing our flame towards those who are causing our oppression. So in increasing our vibration, so I wrote an article on my blog, which is healthtruth.blog, a few years ago, and it was called Raising Your Energy. So if you go to the search bar and you type in Raising Your Energy, you'll see that I give you some tips on how to raise your energy and how to increase your vibration. And a good resource for that would be David Hawkins, who has a book called Power versus Force. And he talks about different emotions and how they vibrate at a different frequency. So love and gratitude and enlightenment are high up on that frequency scale. When you're in that frequency scale, you have the ability to manifest using your thoughts. You become a co-creator of the universe, because we're all part of the universe, right? We're all part of that matrix. But when you're in anger, fear, and resentment, you're vibrating in a very low density. And the only way you can control your environment is via force, is pulling a sign off of somebody, or, you know, trying to kill or injure or disable somebody, you have to use force. And those who are using force are usually vibrating at that lower density. So what we need to do is elevate our humanity, making us all co-creators, so we can manifest using our plan and a new reality, the new destiny, the new awakening. This is the Great Awakening. This is the Great Awakening everyone's talking about. It's just understanding your own power, understanding that you have manifestation capabilities, that you are a co-creator of your universe and of your reality. Different people say it in different ways. Like I said, Gandhi says your beliefs and your thoughts create your words and your actions and inspire your destiny. But this is the crux. This is the summary of what this is all about. So again, if you want more information on this, you could visit my YouTube channel, and the last video I did in a car. I'm in a car, actually, I should tell you about that, because this is the only space that I have that's mine. So I feel like when I'm here, I'm most me, right? There's nobody around. I don't have to worry about my family sort of coming in. Right now I'm staying with my stepdad. I don't have to worry about, you know, inconveniencing somebody in their space. So I think I might do more videos out here in the car where I can really connect to me. But the power doesn't come from our segregation. The power comes from our unity. So those other videos, the Stay Awake video on my YouTube channel and the Wake Up World, I have, it was taken down from YouTube, but Facebook, I've posted the Facebook link to the Wake Up World video. They're car videos where you'll get other dimensions and other aspects of these global issues. Today I really wanted to sort of target the two signs, the one that said all life matters and the one that said all lives matter, and to give you my reasoning and also my apology for those that I may have offended with that. So again, I don't know if there's any questions. The legislature in Fredericton, thank you, Francois, 12:30 to 2 p.m. Is that today, Francois? This is probably a public, you can qualify that. I'll wait for your response, either Francois or Tara Lynn. But yes, they need you in New Brunswick to stand up for your rights and freedoms. Whether or not you believe vaccines are safe or effective is really based on what you've read and the experiences you've had. There are a group of vaccine-injured parents that know so with certainty that that child changed once they had their vaccine. You know, they became autistic, or our friends Andrew and Shannon seen Ethan deteriorate quickly where he lost bowel control, starts having seizures. I mean, so whether or not you believe vaccines are dangerous or not, taking away our ability to choose that for our family and for our children is a grave injustice. It goes against our Canadian Constitution. We should always be given the right of choice, especially when there's risk attached. And from a regulated healthcare perspective, I can't understand why the doctors and pharmacists and chiropractors and dentists and all the nurses, all the regulated professionals in New Brunswick are not speaking out. You should be down at that legislative building at 2 p.m. or 12 to 2 today as Francois. Tomorrow, is it Francois? Okay, tomorrow, so he can post that, please, here about freedom to choose. The government can't force us into our bodies. Yes, thank you, Francois. Francois, and thank you. You know, there was a group of 5 or 6 of us that Andrew and Shannon and a few others, Chris, that went to New Brunswick back in 2019 to present to a standing committee that was developed, and I think Tara Lynn may have spearheaded that, a standing committee to explain the alternate perspective on vaccines. And we had doctors from around the world. Dr. Robert Sears was there, and Dr. James Weiler, and who else was there? We had Vaccine Choice Canada, Dr. Noss. I mean, these were world-known specialists. Dr. Sears is a pediatrician, even, you know, presenting to the New Brunswick legislature, to the MLAs, about the dangers of vaccines and how important is it for us to maintain choice in that situation. Because unlike the pharmaceutical companies, if your child is damaged from a vaccine injury in Canada, we don't have any resource. So this is the whole idea of, we don't have any recourse, I should say. So your child is damaged, too bad, tough luck, go live with it, spend you know, $500,000 to have special education and special detoxing of your child and whatever you need, physiotherapy. You know, the government disowns you if your child is